This gospel is rightly asserted to be the central confession of the whole church. At numerous points in 1 Corinthians, Paul reminds his readers that the Corinthian church is not the only church, or better put, that there are many other churches with common beliefs and practices, such that at some point, the independence of the Corinthians, far from being a virtue, is merely evidence that they're out of step. 4:17. Paul tells them that Timothy will remind the Corinthians of Paul's way of life, which agrees with what I teach everywhere in every church. 7:17, when he's dealing with marriage and divorce, Paul stipulates, this is the rule I lay down in every church. After laying down what believers are to think about headship and relationships between men and women, Paul closes his discussion with the words, if anyone wants to be contentious about this, we have no other practice, nor do the churches of God. However, we understand the restriction found in 14:34, Paul introduces it with the words, as in all the congregation of the saints. All the congregations of the saints. 14:33. Now, there is no explicit formula just like that in 1 Corinthians 15. Nevertheless, Paul repeatedly alludes to what he preaches everywhere, not just in Corinth. Passive expressions like, if it is preached, verse 11, give the impression that this is the common content, not something that was reserved for Corinth. So also Paul's reference to his service in Ephesus in verse 32, and his many earlier references to common practices in preaching the gospel. Of course, what the whole church, or all the churches, are doing is not necessarily right. Just ask Athanasius or Luther. One must test everything by Scripture. We should never, ever retreat to a hidebound traditionalism. Moreover, one must grimly admit that there is a kind of traditionalism that loses its way and that preserves form while sacrificing authenticity and power. In Corinth, however, that doesn't seem to have been the problem. Corinth speaks rather to the lust for endless innovation that casually cuts a swath away from the practices and beliefs of other churches, while quietly sidestepping the careful instruction of the apostle. Paul insists that the gospel is rightly asserted to be the central confession of the whole church. Always be suspicious of churches that proudly flaunt how different they are from what has gone before.